Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to open our Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, June the 18th, 2019. I want to welcome all of you for being here tonight. If you would, please check your telephones and all your devices for me right now, if you would, and turn those things on vibrate or off for me, and we would appreciate that. If you are a speaker tonight, please come up to the podium. If the microphone's not on, push the button to the right till you see a little red light at the top so Kay can be recording us, and that would be great. Tonight we have Reverend Jeff Lovett with us, who is pastor of the Morton Church of Christ, who will be offering our invocation, and then after the invocation, we will be doing our Pledge of Allegiance with our children from Drexel Elementary School, where Jesse Gravel is the new incoming principal, and we appreciate you being there. So if you'll join me by standing, Reverend Lovett, if you'll come forward for our invocation.
Let us bow before our Creator. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, gathered again. We're thankful for the government that we have, both nationally, statewide, and locally. And we're thankful, Father, that in such a meeting as this, those who are elected officials make possible for all to hear and participate in the conducting of the business of this county. And yet, Father, we know that you, and we want to recognize that you are providentially the one who truly is the shaper of events. And so therefore, Father, we acknowledge that before you tonight and ask that we might be able to see your hand in what is right, and that we might act accordingly. Bless this meeting of the county commissioners and those who have attended as well, and may, Father, much good come from it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Lovett. All right, Drexel Elementary, come on forward. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. If you'll stand right there, we'd like to come down and take a picture with you, okay? Parents, if you're here and want to take pictures, come on up. Come up front so you can get a good close-up. Close enough? Y'all get one more. Break them up. Y'all get one more. Everybody look back here at the man with the camera. All right. Well, thank you. Madam Clerk, if you would, let the record reflect that all the commissioners are now present, along with the county manager and the county attorney. All right, gentlemen, moving on to item number 4 is the approval of the agenda. I think you've had the agenda for a good while. At this time, I will accept a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, you've heard the motion by the vice chair. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. Madam Clerk, that'll be 5-0. Gentlemen, you also have in front of you meeting minutes from the Board of Commissioners meeting on March the 5th, 2019, which was the pre-agenda meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You've heard the motion by Commissioner Abley. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. We have no presentations scheduled for tonight. Moving on to item number 7 is from Community Development, Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2019-03, and public hearing presented by Scott Carpenter, Deputy County Manager and Planning Director. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The hot button is on. So it's nice to be here this evening. I'll be brief in my comments on this particular zoning map amendment request. And so staff received a request rezoning application from Edward Robinson to rezone one parcel of land which totaled 1/2 acre. So the planning board originally met to hear this rezoning request on March 28, 2019, and it was determined that the request, if granted, would create a spot zone. So the board had a discussion, and they discussed this with the applicant, and they decided to table the request until their next meeting in order to give the applicant time to bring in additional properties so that they would be rezoning more than 1/2 acre. So that was at the March meeting. So at the April meeting, when we reconvened, the applicant did not offer any additional properties to be brought in for the rezoning request. And as a matter of fact, the actual applicant did not show up to that second meeting. A person who had a business that started all this, there was a sweepstakes occurring on the property, and that property was not zoned for that. And so that's what caused them to come and to request this rezoning. So they would have needed to rezone this to commercial in order to make that a feasible request. Now, this whole area is surrounded by industrial, and this is out there on the western side of the county, and it's near our business park. So there was quite a bit of land at one time that was rezoned to industrial, as you see here, in anticipation that industry would find this area attractive, being near the intersections and things. We have not had any real industrial development out there at the business park or over here in this particular area either. I'm not sure why these few little parcels weren't also zoned industrial at the time, but they weren't. And when the applicant went to the neighbors and asked if they would join this rezoning request, the neighbor stated different ones that they were not interested. And mainly I think it was because the request was to have a sweepstakes there. And several neighbors had explained that people had come to their homes at different hours late into the night asking for money, rides, and various things, and they didn't feel that that was a good request. And so the planning board voted unanimously at that meeting 4-0 to not recommend to this board to approve this rezoning request. And the main reason being, outside of the other things, was that it's a spot zone if we only look at 1/2 acre. And so that's my report, gentlemen, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on this.
Thank you, Scott, for the presentation. Gentlemen, questions for Scott?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a couple of questions. I think one of the questions would be that, Scott, that does meet the I-40 over overlay that we voted in.
Yes, sir, it is.
And part of the problem is the size of the lots, but I think the question would be is, you know, where we're gonna be, is it, you know, in 5 years? It's really a two-phrase question. Should it be rezoned based on the location next to I-40, et cetera, and in industrial? And how, that would make it not a spot zoning. But the second one is, it appeared to me when looking at the maps and studying that that whole block needs to be rezoned business, or, you know, I think you got 5 or 6 plots of property there that needs to be rezoned industrial or business.
Well, I think, sir, the problem is when you look at the existing land use map and what's there, it's not industrial in nature. So it's more like RMU, which essentially is what this area was. It was like our rural mixed-use areas that had a whole variety. So you can see there was a commercial use, single-family use, a double-wide type of use, and that type of thing. So it didn't really meet the criteria, and so large lots and things were zoned to industrial, and I believe in an effort to preserve those large lots for future industrial, because at the time, industry was still not quite, you know, it hadn't taken a downturn as badly as it did later, but now we're starting to see some industrial come back, like with today's announcement. So people can always rezone all this industrial to something else if that's what the market dictates in the future. I personally try not to, I try to identify these areas as potential areas to be rezoned to industrial, but I don't necessarily go in and rezone them to industrial, because then I also restrict everything else. And I think that was the reason it was done, was to restrict residential and other things.
Well, the next question is really the one that I was concerned about the most, and that question is, it's been in it's kind of stalemated where it is, and there's no activity. And if we don't rezone it, then it stays, I'm going to use the word stalemated. And so what do we do to make that district along that busy highway more productive, or even usable, because 2 of the lots are vacant, I believe. There's nobody occupying the property, the business. But I think that would be a question that needs to be addressed. How do we make it more usable, more productive, more profitable to somebody who's wanting to go in business, or for the county, whatever?
I don't know the answer to that, sir. It depends on who wants to invest in it. An elderly lady was at the meeting who said that this particular building was a fellowship hall for her church when it was built, and that's why it was actually constructed. And she's of meager means, and she wants to redo her home, which is just one parcel over, and she was hesitant to do that based on if this type of use in particular came in. And the other neighbors were also just not supportive of it becoming general business.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? If not, at this time, Madam Clerk, I will open a public hearing in regards to ZMA 2019-03. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? You have cards? Okay, please.
Miss Jackie Wisnett.
Ms. Wisnett, when you come up, you'll give us your name and address.
Yes, sir.
Jackie Wisnett. I live at 3022 Jamestown Road. My husband and I, we own 3020, 3022, and 3045 Jamestown Road. The house that, that we own is right beside of this. And when we were in the meeting prior to this before, they were wanting to take our house and make it into commercial. Then it will no longer be residential. And we were going to hand it down to our kids. I mean, it's not abandoned, we take care of it and everything. But this place is starting to be a nuisance, which is not starting, it is a nuisance. People comes over wanting to, want us to give them money, or they just come up there and just bother us altogether. I have kids there, and to me, they have it down as a lakeside arcade. I have been in this building because I went and talked to Miss Tiffany about the rezoning thing, and I have been in there, and every arcade I've ever been to, it's they've had tickets or tokens to where you can get prizes. I have seen them with my own eyes hand out cash money to winners. That's not no arcade in my book, I'm sorry. And we used to live, well, when we had neighbors there, it used to be a really, really bad neighborhood. And we've got it cleaned up until this place come back, and then we're worried to even go out in our yard sometimes. 1, 2 o'clock at night, people's going in and out with loud vehicles. You know, they're just loud. I mean, it's just a complete nuisance. And we just don't want to lose our home so they can have a business that's probably not going to last, you know, for a long time. They'll probably move out, you know, I mean, just it's the way stuff usually goes. But our house is, you know, it used to be my father-in-law lived in it, and he passed away Easter Sunday. And we was wanting to donate the house to one of our kids. And it's kind of hard to do that whenever you have the devil's work to try to take it away. So if you guys could please help us with that, be greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Edward Robinson.
Mr. Robinson, if you'll state your name and your address.
My name's Edward Robinson. I live at 4407 Epley Road here in Morganton. My family owns that property, and I'm the representative for the family partnership. We rent that building to Lakeside Arcade. Some of these accusations that have been made about the property or the tenant in the building, there's been, to my knowledge, no police reports, no calls to the sheriff's department. There's no record of any of these things other than just hearsay. So if it's documented, I'd like to know, because I live in that neighborhood also. I live less than a half mile from this building in question. And if it is a nuisance and a problem, I would like to see documentation, because I don't want that in my neighborhood either, if that's the case. But all that being said, the zoning issue up there, I agree with Mr. Taylor that there is a zoning problem up there, because as you can see, we own 10 acres of industrial behind that, and we can't do anything with it because that strip in the front is zoned completely residential. So we can't even advertise that or get to that property because it's residential. If I want to rent that building to a hairdresser, a florist, anything, I can't do it. I'm completely stagnated. Regardless what the building was in the past, I can't do anything with the building the way the zoning is today. And if you look in those photographs on Jamestown Road, those properties that are there, the one across the street, it's not residential, it's being used as some type of a private club. Mr. Wisnit's house, you can see the sprawling complex, looks like an automotive business to me. So the question is, you know, it's kind of lax. If someone says one thing, everybody gets all worked up about it, but let's look at the facts, what's really going on up there. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Miss Tiffany Poovey.
Ms. Poovey, if you'll state your name and address, please.
Tiffany Poovey, 3290 Port Street, Morgan. I just wanted to address the commissioners and just say that we run a quiet, nice business. Older adults that like to come out and have a good time. We don't have no trash, we don't have no loitering. And I did talk to Ms. Wisnut prior to our other meeting, and they didn't have a problem with it to begin with. And then I think there was a question about if they did zone this as commercial, then they would have to, in order to give their children the house, if it ever quits being residential, then they have to upgrade or bring it up to code, and that was the problem with Ms. Wisnut. But prior to that, she didn't have a problem with our establishment. She's been in our establishment. It's not loud. It's older adults usually. We hadn't had no complaints from anybody else. Matter of fact, we ain't had no complaints from them. We've had no police reports. We've had no officers up there. We've not had any problems. We have a list of people that we don't allow in there, and we enforce it. And I'd just like to say that, you know, we have a nice establishment. I don't like anybody bad-mouthing it because it is nice. It's one of the nicer places. And we just like that. Before it was the arcade, it was a church, I think. Before that, it was the Young Men's Club. So it's always been a business in that store, that building. It's always been a business. It's never been residential at all, even before us. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else here to speak to ZMA 2019-03? Hearing no one and seeing no one, Madam Clerk, will close the public hearing. This time we'll return to the board. Gentlemen, your pleasure on this matter.
Mr. Chairman, is that building, will they have to cease doing business there as an arcade or whatever if we vote against this? Is that what's going to happen, or?
Scott?
Yes, sir, that's my understanding, is that it's not zoned for being an arcade or a sweepstakes business.
And how long has that business been in existence?
I don't know when it went into existence. I think we received
But there's always been something in there business related, I believe, hasn't there?
I'm not sure. I think it was vacant for many years. But they.
We had a church, there was a church in there for several years.
Church and Lions Club.
There was a men's club.
Men's
back
club.
a few years.
So there's been different types of things there.
Would that be qualified as a business then, those things that have been in there, or?
Well, churches are allowed basically in any zoning district under certain conditions. And clubs, it depends on the type of club, can also be allowed in other zoning districts as well. This particular use is restricted, though, to general business.
And to your knowledge, there hasn't been any complaints on that property or club or whatever?
I don't know. I have no knowledge of that.
Scott, just for clarity's sake, describe the spot zoning again,
So
the problem with that, and then there was nobody at the second meeting that came back and said, you know, we're going to add additional land. So
Right.
would you,
So spot zoning is when you take just one parcel and you rezone it, and usually it's a small parcel, you know, like half an acre, to a different use than everything else that's around. So I realize that it's industrial that's around it, and so that makes our minds think, well, that's more of an intense type of activity, but it doesn't change the fact that it's still a spot zone. It just happens to be industrial instead of low-density residential or something. So normally, to avoid a spot zone for general business, you want to try to hit at least 2 acres or more and bring in a significant amount of land. Same with residential, usually 3 or 4 more to a different zoning district. Other things that we allow are residential mixed-use type of things where you actually, everybody knows what's going on in advance when you're starting to mix the uses in a neighborhood. And they're all different. We were just looking at this one straight from the point of it being a half an acre surrounded by other zoning. If all of them rezoned, then we would have said, that's fine.
Scott, there, down from there, there's also, and there's some kind of not an industrial site, but I don't know if it's a lumber yard, but years ago, they were building log cabins there or something on that property. The property is bordering on I-40, I believe, but there's some garages and stuff down there, buildings.
I'm not,
And I don't know if that's a church now, to be honest.
I believe that's currently a church.
and so the churches are allowed pretty much.
But it wasn't a church for years and years and years.
Right, but it may have been sitting in the industrial zoning, so manufacturing, fabrication is allowed.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, let me ask Scott one more. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit so I make sure I understand what you're saying. That's not big enough sections to rezone it for business because very few businesses would fit on those small lots of land. However, if you zoned more, what it would take more to get it rezoned, a lot of the neighbors that you'd be rezoning would give you more resistance and cause it not to happen. Is that a fair statement?
Well, sort of, but the other part of that statement might be that the surrounding residences don't want general business next to them.
If I owned a piece of property and didn't want to go commercial and you rezone it anyhow, does that mean my taxes is going to go up to match the business zoning?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So strict zoning does not necessarily constitute value of the land.
Okay, all right.
One other question, Jack. Up to now, we've let that business in there I don't know for how many years, so, I mean, they've been there a while. And all of a sudden, we're gonna pull the rug out from them and do business, and we have no complaints on the business?
Yes, sir. It's just a standard zoning violation. It's like many others that we deal with all the time.
I think that's wrong to pull the rug out on a business that has no complaints or whatever. I just think that's wrong.
Any other questions or comments, gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, could we have Scott what is their recourse if we deny this? Did they get a second chance or it's over?
It's over. Yes, sir.
Okay, Scott, refresh me. There is a court case regarding spot zoning.
Yes, sir. The problem that you have with spot zoning and the cases nationally is there's not a table that gives you an exact amount that defines spot zoning by category. So there's not a table for zoning or for planners that say in residential it's 2 acres, in commercial it's 1.9, or there's not anything like that. And so you have to use some judgment. And in my opinion, a half an acre that's secluded and surrounded by residential doesn't meet the criteria.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that, but we're talking about a business that's been in business there. Why didn't we stop this when they first went into business? City of Morganton, if I would have decided to do something, they'd have an inspector out there in a minute.
So
and we've let that go on for how long?
So we stopped it, sir, as soon as we became aware of the business.
How long was that?
I don't know how long it had been in existence, but I know that as soon as we found out about it, that we would have moved to send them a violation. And that would have been done
It's
through
not a violation, we're putting them out of business.
a zoning violation.
Would not
Other questions or comments? All right, gentlemen, pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to deny rezoning request ZMA 2019-03 and adopt related consistency statement. Statement of consistency for denial of the rezoning request. Although the proposed rezoning would be consistent with the 2016 through 2030 Burke County Strategic Land Use Plan, the proposed rezoning would not be considered reasonable and in the public interest because the singularity and small size of the parcel could qualify this rezoning request as spot zone. Past court decisions of the same nature uphold this reasoning. Although the surrounding area is predominantly zoned industrial, the existing land uses are predominantly residential in nature. And although the 2016-2030 Strategic Land Use Plan shows an industrial focus area in close proximity, there are no industrial facilities in operation or proposed for this area. And the agreement with the Planning Board's recommendations and the proposed rezoning classification is not compatible with the overall character of existing development in the immediate vicinity of the subject property.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the vice chair's motion. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. All opposed. Madam Clerk, that will be 3-2. All right, moving on to our next item of business, County Manager adoption of the fiscal year 1920 budget and public hearing. County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, we've had, I presented the recommended budget to you at our May meeting. We've held a couple of work sessions, and during those work sessions, staff were instructed to make some changes. We have done that, as well as the meeting with the sheriff for additional positions in the jail. The finance officer has sent to you what these changes are and what the overall impact is to the recommended budget. I don't know if there's any further questions that I or the finance officer can answer, but again, we've made the revisions that were requested during the budget workshops and the revision that was resulted from our meeting with the sheriff for additional jail staff.
Okay, gentlemen, you heard the county manager's presentation. Questions or comments for the county manager?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I have really seven. I got 6, but 7 things. I did want to announce to you that I redid the numbers of the sheet that was provided to you. And I don't intend to reread it. I just wanted to advise you that Margaret and I got together because we discovered that the figure of 73,000 per new staff was averaged new, and the new average was 51.9. It doesn't change the numbers that much because the cost of adding the other employees, it ended up being in a like similarity, but if you want a copy of that, I'll be happy to give that to you. The budget, some of the budget concerns, and we keep doing this, but number one, we had $2,830,574 in last year's budget. That didn't reappear on this year's budget. That means it paid out, or it wasn't renewed, or it was a one-time thing. When you add that to the increase you have, that combined increase in spending of over $5,830,000. And for a county the size of Burke and the revenue, it is just a horrendous burden of the taxpayer. And we need to include those things when we're doing this budget, and possibly at least every once in a while give the taxpayers a break. Number two, and this really concerns me, and the fire department increases. The revow with the same tax rate puts $568,242 in their kitty without them asking for it. and y'all were not here, Wayne was, I know. We let this happen one time before when the reval happened, and the fire departments ended up with a large amount of money that was unasked for. At $700 in revenue per cent, that 2.8 million represents 8.3 tax cents. And that's just ridiculous it would be most ethical and honest if we, as good stewards, adjust the tax rate to revenue neutral to last year's budget on the fire department. It's just unreasonable. Number 3, cost of living raises are recommended at 3%. I am aware that the state, federal governments have adopted a 2% cost of living adjustment. 3%, folks, is a 50% increase than what's recommended by other governing partners. And I don't know how much that would save. I didn't bother Margaret because of, to get that figure, but it becomes a huge percentage increase over others. On a pay plan adjustment, there's 62 listed. This is item number 4. Who are they? And I don't mean by names, by what merits, accomplishments, or for any advancements have been made to earn a higher advancement. How many of them are any repeats within the last 3 years? Collectively, how much does this add to the budget? Can we get an answer for that? Anybody?
I don't have that with me at this moment. I mean, we had 2 budget workshops in the past. The cost of living increase is one for a period of 2 years. There was no cost of living last year, so if you break that down, it's actually 1.5% per year. And the information that we had, that over the 2-year period, the actual cost was about a 4% increase, which we did not feel comfortable going to.
I thought we did do a 1.5, maybe I'm incorrect. Okay, back to the pay plan adjustments. I am happy for people to make money. I'm happy if it's just that this is a Maynard concern, is that sometimes it can be used to favor employees. When in some of the business training I had in my early life, they did not recommend you do that kind of an increase because it can become unfair to those other employees. And I would like, before next budget, that we have, Mr. Chairman, some discussion on that item and include our HR girl. She's here, I believe. But I am happy for people who have earned and who deserve an increase and a pay change. I am not in favor, and I have said this many times, just a carte blanche, everybody gets paid some more money without, after we've already given 15% increases. So it becomes sometime an opportunity that we need to take care of taxpayers as well as our costs and our plans and our new projects. They can all soak up money that will dry up the opportunity to do that. Our 5th request, Johnny and I attended the Republican Executive Committee, and they requested that we ask you to include $15,000 toward the Veterans Memorial Monument. And I think they have raised, Johnny, you might know more about that than I do. They have raised their portion to what's supposed to come with that, or a big part of it. I don't know how much of it, but I think the total cost is around 40,000. Is that correct?
That's close.
Yeah, okay. And so they're asking that this board provide 15,000 so they can complete that. And that is a monument for all soldiers who died in Burke County. And I think that's an honorable way to honor those people who gave their life that we may have the freedoms we do. The sixth thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is employment growth is probably the biggest growth category in our budget and has been for the last 5 years. Rhonda gave me the added employees since 2015, 2016. The total employees is 105 full-time employees and 30 part-time employees for a total of 135 employees that we have hired. Rhonda provided it by departments, but I was not wanting to talk about the different departments. I just wanted to talk about the concern of hiring so many people. Here's the concern. The concern is that our population has not increased. I have been told I do not have authentic numbers except out of East Burke. They were down 30 from graduation. The graduation numbers are down. Deaths are outnumbering our births in Burke County. It's part of the reason we can't grow our population. Remember that, and this is where we want to, if we can, educate our managers. How many of you know that 20 new employees added to our budget at $50,000 apiece for salary, benefits, retirement, etc. adds up to $1 million. 100 employees represents $5 million. And we just can't keep doing this. One of the things that I'd hoped for this new budget, we had a golden opportunity with the revalve to give the taxpayers a break. But instead, we chose to spend every extra penny that 7% gave. The sad fact is that most people would argue that life, safety, security, that enjoying day-to-day life and living is not any better for that $12 million we've spent in the last 5 years extra. I have watched the news, and they noted on the news this morning that they didn't tell how much increase, but I have been told the Mecklenburg County, and I'm not picking on Sheriff's Department, Sheriff, it's just a good example, but they've raised their cost over 500%. And today, this morning on the news, they have had double the number of homicides in Mecklenburg County. Money is not the whole answer to our problems. It will never be. And sometimes, even though this body would bleed ourselves to death to give you the money you want and to do things of you as we'd like, sometimes it's just impossible. And sometimes when we say no, it's certainly not a thing of the heart. It is a thing of simply we don't have, or the budget won't allow any more than what we're doing. I think from my perspective, and we'll be repeating this to the board from time to time, that we need to take a major slowdown in hiring and spending. It's a little out of control, and the biggest cost of increase is employees, and the cost of a lot of the programs. Every time you hire a new employee, you add expenses that neither the employee gets. It goes for retirement, it goes for insurance, it goes for other things, but it has to be paid anyway. And it's what helps drive the cost of employment up. Mr. Chairman, I believe without you have a question of some of my comments, that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Abley?
How did you know?
Just had a feeling.
Well, you know that I've been wrangling with you all about the jail. That, but I really, when I look over this things that Maynard's been talking about, this is the 17th budget process I've been involved in the county, 17 years, and I find this budget hard to swallow. However, the biggest figure in there is the $22 million for the new jail. And what really bugs me about the $22 million, that is paid over 20 years. We're encumbering people, our children that will be that age at that time when they start paying taxes. They won't have any say in this. I guess I wouldn't mind if it was a 3-year note or a 5-year note, but 20-some years we're encumbering the people of Burke County with this high tax. And we just had reval. Any way you look at it, it's still a tax increase with reval. I mean, we didn't lower the taxes like Maynard said, but 20 years, I just can't get over that. We are financing something for 20 years. When we have a good jail sitting there, there is nothing wrong with the jail. I mean, I don't know how many groups of people I've took through that jail. There is nothing wrong with that jail. I mean, it's not supposed to be the Taj Mahal, for crying out loud. And in 20 years, is our new jail, is that going to be wore out? I mean, it's, 20 years. What we're saying now, I guess, is that it might be wore out. So I just can see a continuing budget problem with all this. And I support most of the budget. Now, Maynard had a lot of different questions, but I support most of the budget, but I just cannot support what it's going to cost to build this new jail. I just, $22 million, almost $22 million, and $1,800,000 this first or second year. We've already made one payment on it. So I just want to voice my action with that, with the new jail.
Thank you, Commissioner Agley. Any other questions or comments from the other commissioners? All right, hearing none at this time, Madam Clerk, I will open the public hearing to receive comments from the citizens on the budget. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the budget? Hearing no one and seeing no one, Madam Clerk, at this time I will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, the budget is before you. Your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt fiscal year 1920 budget ordinance 2019-06 as presented, to approve a memorandum of agreement between Burke County and the Burke County Board of Education for fiscal year 1920, to authorize the county manager to execute contracts with all nonprofit agencies that received funding in the fiscal year 1920 budget in accordance with NCGS 13A 449 and NCGS 15940.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Commissioner Britton's motion. All in favor?
Chairman, I'd like to amend the motion.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to amend the motion that the tax rate be set at equivalent to tax neutral, which is a rate of .657 per $100 value, and adjust the budget accordingly.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the amended motion that's on the floor. Any other questions or comments regarding the amended motion?
Mr. Britton needs to either accept or not accept the amendment to the motion.
Britton?
I would not accept that amendment, Mr. Chairman.
So then the amendment would have to be voted on first and either approved or defeated, and then the original motion by Commissioner Britton would then be voted on.
So Commissioner Britton has not accepted the amended motion, and I'm sorry, what did you say after that?
Since he has not accepted it, then the vote should be first on Commissioner Taylor's amendment, and then on Commissioner Britton's original motion.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Commissioner Taylor's motion. Is there any discussion on Commissioner Taylor's motion? Hearing none, all in favor of Commissioner Taylor's motion signify by raising the right hands. Yes, I said your motion. That's what, all opposed? That amendment fails 3-2. Madam Clerk. Now back to the original motion of Commissioner Britton. All in favor of Commissioner Britton's motion signify by raising the right hand. All opposed? Madam Clerk, that passes 3-2. Thank you so very much. All right, moving on to informal public comments. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Speaker, we have one citizen who would like to address the board, Ms. Carla Wallace.
Ms. Wallace?
Good afternoon. I'm Carla Wallace with Partners for Cats and Burke County Animal Welfare Alliance. I'm here to talk to you today about the cats at Burke County Animal Control. Before I start, I do want to say that we realize the animal control is getting ready to go through a massive change starting next month. But we are wanting to make sure that the issues I'm bringing up today don't fall through the cracks when that happens. So that's why I'm speaking today. Thanks to you, we have been able to take pictures of some of the cats once they're urgent. And that is really important and has helped us a lot to get cats rehomed or back to their owners. However, we would like to request the ability to take pictures or videos of them all. This would greatly aid in the return of many lost cats. Also, the option of being adopted is increased. People fall in love with faces, not descriptions. We currently have an option of rescuing feral cats if placement is available. We would like to ensure that that continues, because in many cases, cats appearing feral and animal control are in fact just terrified. We have in fact pulled several that once they were in homes, it was apparent that they were tame cats. So for this reason, we would ask that the feral cat option remain and that we be able to take pictures and videos of them all as soon as possible, not after they are urgent and in danger. If we can get pictures as soon as possible when they come in, this will give us the much needed time to network them and to find their owners, or for rescues to find fosters and adopters. And the public will also be able to see them and claim their pets. Currently, the only thing I can do is try to get descriptions and network them before they are urgent and in danger of euthanasia. This does not work very well, and many are falling through the cracks and dying. We need to do more. We need to come together and open the ability for all animals to be videoed and have pictures taken as soon as they come in. The dogs get that option, and the cats should as well. Thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Madam Clerk, anyone else?
That's all the cards I have, Mr. Chairman.
Moving on to item number 9 is the consent agenda. Doing that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, you have, I believe it's about 14 items on your consent agenda. Number 1, BDI McAdams and Associates LLC contract approval. Item 2, clerk reappointments to Child Protection Child Fatality Team. Item 3, clerk appointments to Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees. Item 4, finance fiscal year 1920 general liability workers' comp insurance renewal. Item 5, Finance, Home and Community Care Block Grant for fiscal year 2019-2020. Item 6, General Services, fifth modification and amendment to Environmental Services Agreement. Item 7, General Services, approval of recycling contract. Item 8, Health Department, Child Protection, Child Fatality Teams, fiscal 2018-19 report. Item 9, JCPC, approval of JCPC fiscal year 2020 county plan addendum. Item 10, JCPC, approval of pass-through funding for Children's Hope Alliance Home Remedies from North Carolina Department of Public Safety. Item 11, JCPC, removals, reappointments, and appointments to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Item 12, Senior Services, American Food Services LLC contract for nutrition program. Item 13, Tax Department, tax collection report for May 2019. And item 14, Tax Department release refund report for May 2019.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Brian's report on the consent agenda. This time we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion we approve all 14 items as rendered.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Commissioner Taylor's motion. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. Madam Clerk, that will be 5-0. Thank you, Brian. Moving on to our items for decision. The first item tonight is from Burke Development, Inc., the Interlocal Economic Development Agreement for the Burke Business Park, presented by Hope Hopkins, BDI Director of Business Retention Expansion. Hope?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. BDI is requesting amendment to the Burke Business Park Interlocal Government Agreement for the project financing. Burke County has received a grant for a water tank and pump station there. In doing so, we have a match that is required. So we have, of course, coordinated with the City of Morganton to provide some engineering work and then some additional funds that BDI holds, as well as the county's portions. And so through the interlocal government agreement, the way that it's structured is we would ask for the amendment to allow for the repayment of the funds provided by Burke County and the funds for the engineering from the City of Morganton. And so you should have that presented in your packets, and if you have any questions regarding the amendment, I'll be glad to answer those.
Thank you, Hope. Gentlemen, questions for Hope on this matter? All right. Hearing none, gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard Wayne's motion to approve the amendment to the Interlocal Economic Development Agreement for the Business Park presented. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. All opposed. Madam Clerk, that would be 5-0. Thank you, Hope.
Thank you.
We've got item number 2 in General Services is renewal of the janitorial service contract presented by Miles Champion, our General Services Director. Miles?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
I need to excuse myself. This is one of the three people who have put in a bid for property, so
Yes, sir.
I need to excuse myself. May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I go in here and eat peanuts.
Miles?
Thank you. The annual contract for janitorial services expires June 30th, 2019. The renewal of the contract has been finalized since we met at pre-agenda. Patton Cleaning Company Incorporated was selected to continue providing janitorial services for 15 county facilities for fiscal year 2019-2020. The total contract amount is $330,106.57 for the entire year. Funding has been included in the budget, and approval is recommended.
Pardon us, we're in consultation here.
Wayne, do you want to get up and move around as well? I'm getting a little paranoid.
Never thought we'd stumble on cleaning contracts.
This one, I thought was as you come out the steps.
Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that I'm still going to allow Commissioner Taylor to recuse himself from this vote. Would you please? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might just clarify, with the attorney, I noted that the company that I work for also uses patent cleaning company. That crossed my mind, and our attorney says he does not feel that presents any conflict, so I will stay the
So let the
course.
record reflect that one also, Madam Clerk. Okay. Was there questions for Miles on this from anyone else? Okay. Are we ready for a motion? Mr. Vice Chair, I was kind of going between things.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a contract for janitorial services between Burke County and Patent Cleaning Company, Inc., and subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney.
All right, Jim, you heard the Vice Chair's motion. All in favor signify by raising the right hands. Those opposed, that'll be 4-0, Madam Clerk. All right. I think we can get Commissioner Taylor back. Mr. Vice Chair.
You didn't eat all the peanuts, did you? You didn't eat all the peanuts, did you?
All right, gentlemen, let's move to our reports and comments section. Let's start with down on the far end with the county attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any comments tonight.
No comments.
The only comment I have, Mr. Chairman, is that there's a couple of regular updates you get from some of the places that I belong to, like the JCPC is one of them, and the other one was the Highway Committee did not meet last month, so you will not get a copy of that.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chair.
Nothing.
Mr. Britton.
I will take this opportunity tonight, and I think this has been duly noted and announced today, our DSS director has indicated that she plans to be retiring, leaving us at the end of the month, and I hope Doreen doesn't mind my noting this right now, in that it's been my pleasure to serve on that board for a number of years, and I'd just like to commend Doreen for her efforts and her work, and let her know that it has been appreciated, and thank you for your many years of service to this county, Doreen.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although it's not in your packet, Commissioner Abley did attend the ethics training at the COG, and just wanted to get that in the official record.
All right, thank you. Mr. County Manager?
No, sir.
Thank you. My reports are in the packet also. I'm proud to announce, and I appreciate all of you commissioners coming by this afternoon at 2:30. And we made a significant announcement on a new company coming to Burke County, and it just slipped my mind. Synergy Labs, making a tremendous investment in Burke County, $17.1 million with 237 jobs. That should be coming out in the paper in the next day or so. We are just thrilled to death to be able to make that announcement. As we're closing tonight, for you folks that are watching, I would encourage you again to have your pets spayed or neutered, and also pick up a piece of garbage for me, piece of trash off of the ground. We're trying our dangest to make Burke County clean again if we can get there. We do have a need to go into closed session to discuss threatened or pending litigation, to preserve the attorney-client privilege, and to discuss economic development matters, and to discuss personnel matters as authorized by North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, paragraph A, 3, 4, and 6. I do not anticipate. I do. We do anticipate. I'm coming back. And I want for the press, I believe I told you wrong. I do anticipate that there will be a vote for that. Okay, so we'll come back on that. Madam Clerk, vacancy announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have the following opportunities for citizens to get involved on county boards and committees: the Hickory Regional Planning Commission, Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Council on Aging, the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, the City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ areas, the Voluntary Agriculture Board, the Burke County Board of Adjustment and Planning Board, Western Piedmont Regional Transit Authority Transportation Advisory Board, Partners Behavioral Health Management, the Animal Advisory Board, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, and we just filled the Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees position.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for those vacancy announcements. Again, for those of you that are watching, I encourage you so much to take advantage of these opportunities to sit on one of these boards. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break and then be in closed session. All right, gentlemen, we had a proper motion to come out of closed session, and we are now back into open session. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion requesting that the county manager be given authority to authorize approval up to the midpoint of pay grade 32 for a vacant attorney position within our department, DSS.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the motion by the vice chair. All in favor signify by raising of the right hand. All opposed? Madam Clerk, that'd be 5-0. This time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor?